Now, starting this news bulletin with all the developments from Israel, where an unprecedented 300,000 reservists have been called up amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. Israeli forces have already announced a total siege of the Gaza Strip in a sign that it may be planning a full-blown ground assault. The developments come as the death toll climbed to nearly 1,600, with over 900 confirmed dead in Israel and at least 687 deaths in Gaza. In the latest, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency says its emergency shelters in Gaza are at 90% capacity, with more than 137,000 people taking cover from Israeli strikes. The agency said 83 schools have been turned into shelter. The development comes as Israel continued with its heavy bombardment of Hamas hideouts overnight in Gaza. In total, Israel says over 1,200 locations have been hit in the strikes that have continued for over 3 days. In the wake of intense attacks from Israel, the Hamas group issued stern warning. The militant group that has taken over 100 hostages after it first attacked Israel on Saturday said it would start executing them one by one for every civilian house bombed by Israel without warning. The Israeli leadership, on the other hand, is bracing for a long war. A senior cabinet member says Israel could set up a national unity government within hours. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had announced forming a unity government. In another development, the U.S. military says that it is sending in fresh supplies of air defenses, munitions, and other security assistance to Israel. Top U.S. and Israeli military commanders discuss Hamas's attack and the steps to strengthen U.S. military posture in the region. The Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, on the other hand, is reportedly set to visit Moscow. An official confirmation is awaited from the Kremlin about when this visit will take place. Hamas bombarded Israel with thousands of rockets in an unprecedented attack, triggering a fresh conflict in the region. The Hamas fighter also infiltrated the Israeli territory from land, sea and air, going on a rampage, killing civilians, taking dozens hostage. Israel launched retaliatory airstrikes across Gaza, declaring a war against the Hamas group. In Israel, an unprecedented 300,000 reservists have been called up amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. Israeli forces have announced a total siege of the Gaza Strip in a sign that it may be planning a full-blown ground assault. Our correspondent Jody Cohen has been covering the Israel war for us very closely from ground. The situation remains very difficult for people, with sirens going off as people run for cover in bunkers. And WION's correspondent Jody Cohen had a narrow escape as Hamas rockets rained down on an area in Ra'anana where she was present. Take a look.
I just finished my live and now I'm having to run to take shelter. There's a rocket coming from Gaza to where I am. I'm going to try and go to the community shelter. I don't even know where the shelter is. Okay, I'm in the building, but I don't know where the shelter is. Slicha, for shelter. Okay, down. What? Okay. I'm in the shelter. There's other people here. So where we are in Ra'anana, we have a minute and a half to get to the shelter. People down south in the border communities, they have sometimes as little as 3 or 4 seconds. So they literally sleep in shelters, in their stairwells, wherever they can to get as close as possible to shelter as quickly as possible.
That was our correspondent Jody Cohen, who has confirmed to us that she is safe. Now for more on this, Dr. Malcolm Davis joins us from Canberra. He's a senior analyst in defence strategy and capability from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, sir, Iran clearly being accused of supporting Hamas, yet the United States is still refraining. Is the United States overlooking this, not to be drawn into this war?
I don't think the US is overlooking it at all. I think the US is very aware of Iran's role in this conflict. Iran has been a long-time supporter of Hamas and Hezbollah, and I think the suspicions are high that Iran has taken an active role in certainly planning and supporting this attack. To what extent they were actively involved directly in the attack in some way, I am not sure. But I think that if the evidence does emerge that Iran was complicit in any significant way in this attack, then it's highly likely that Israel would strike back at Iran directly rather than ignore that.
Right, sir. And what kind of a trade-off would you say Hamas is expecting as it has issued direct threats while Israel's offensive continues?
I'm not sure that there'll be any trade-offs. I think that Israel realizes that it cannot accept the possibility of Hamas surviving intact after this attack. So Israel's made it most clear that they intend to thoroughly destroy Hamas. That's different from attacking the Palestinian people in Gaza. I think that needs to be made clear. You need to differentiate Hamas from the Palestinian people. But certainly Israel is going after Hamas, and there'll be no trade-offs, there'll be no negotiations. This is basically the end for Hamas.
Right, sir. And we're also expecting an Arab League meeting today. Can we expect any sort of a diplomatic solution to this crisis?
No, is the short answer. As I said, Israel cannot accept a situation where Hamas survives intact, because if they accept that, then in 6 months or 12 months, we'll be back to having this sort of attack again. This is Israel's 9/11. And in the same way after 9/11, the United States set out to destroy al-Qaeda, in this particular instance, Israel must destroy Hamas. So there'll be no diplomatic solution here. The real challenge for Israel is achieving its goals of destroying Hamas and freeing its hostages, whilst at the same time avoiding a much wider, more dangerous war with Hezbollah in the north, and obviously bringing in Iran and probably Syria as well.
Right, sir. And from also what we're hearing, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is reportedly set to visit Moscow. What would you say about the involvement of Russia in this?
Well, that one's hard to say. I mean, Russia has been an open supporter of Hamas and Hezbollah for a long time, and obviously is directly supporting Iran. So there are suspicions that somehow Russia is involved. And certainly from Moscow's perspective, if they can get the United States and the Western countries to divert their attention away from Ukraine, particularly if they can get the US and its allies to start supplying material support to Israel, that weakens their ability to support Ukraine. So there is a potential, upside there for Moscow with this attack. But so far, there's been no hard evidence to the effect that Russia is directly involved in supporting the attack. I would imagine that there'll be discussions between Hezbollah and Iran and Moscow as to what will happen if Hezbollah and Iran enter the war. I would imagine that Hezbollah would be expecting material support from Russia. But of course, it is ironic that Iran has been supplying Russia with munitions for Ukraine. So there's not a lot that the three of them can do in terms of changing the military balance in a way that would benefit Hezbollah and Iran.
Right, sir. And Israel's intelligence failure, that is something that's raised a lot of questions as well. Now, apparently, as per reports, Egypt had cautioned as well, and those were overlooked. What do you have to say about this?
It's peculiar. Israel has one of the best intelligence organizations in terms of their ability to monitor adversary activities, both Hamas and Hezbollah, and yet somehow they missed this completely. This is a complex and sophisticated operation. It would have taken many months to plan. It would have taken extensive training, including how to, for example, insert forces using paragliders. And yet somehow Israel missed it. And their forces were poorly positioned to respond quickly to when Hamas forces broke out of Gaza. So it's a mystery as to how the Israelis missed it. And as you say, if the Egyptians did in fact warn Netanyahu of this attack and he failed to respond, then shame on him. He's essentially made a bad error of judgment there. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if Netanyahu does not survive this politically.
Right. So, of course, the hostage situation that has emerged as a major concern as well. How do you think the government is equipped to deal with this?
It's a huge problem because unlike traditional past hostage situations where you've had a small number of hostages all located in one building, for example, here you have hundreds of hostages that are probably spread across the length of the Gaza Strip and would be very difficult to rescue. Some have already been rescued, which is good news, but an awful lot are still under Hamas captivity. And I fear for the worst for those hostages.
All right, Dr. Davis, thank you so much for joining us on the show with your insights on this.
Thank you.